Thank you for watching QTV News. My name is Diana SUMBWE. We take a look at stories making headlines in our news. Transparency International Zambia TIZ has demanded the reversal of the degazation of the Lusaka East Forest Reserve number 27. Government has lifted the ban on the movement of livestock in Eastern Province following a successful vaccination exercise against foot and mouth disease. And UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema says Speaker of the National Assembly Patrick Matibini's interpretation and purported application of the sub judice principles is flawed. And now details in our news. Transparency International Zambia has demanded that President Edgar Lungu cancels offers of land allocated at Forest Reserve number 27 in Lusaka and ensures the partial degazation of the forest is reversed. TIZ Chapter President Ruben Lifuka has also challenged the Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate if there was any abuse of office, particularly by policymakers and those involved in making decisions on the matter. In a statement, Mr. Lifuka says the answers and justification given by Chief Government Spokesperson Dora Silia, together with other officials from the Forestry Department and the Commissioner of Lands, are inadequate and very unsatisfactory. He says the Commissioner of Lands failed to highlight why this need for land seems to be confined to a small group of persons in high office and those who are politically connected, or indeed a few ordinary citizens, some of whom have benefited from other parcels of land around the country. Mr. Lifuka has wondered that why only politicians and government officials, including those working for the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, were the ones given priority if indeed there is a long list of applicants. He says it is clear that government, which professes to uphold the tenets of transparency and accountability, failed to advertise the plots created at the forest number 27. Government has lifted the ban on the movement of livestock in Eastern Province following a successful vaccination exercise against foot and mouth disease. Speaking at a media briefing, Fisheries and Livestock Minister Professor Nkanduluo says the ban in 3 other provinces of Lusaka, Copbelt and Southern will remain in place. Professor Luo says the Eastern Province districts of Vubwi, Chipata and Lundazi were affected by the stereotype SAT2 of the foot and mouth disease, which government has managed to contain through vaccination. She states that among the measures that her ministry is undertaking to address the outbreak of foot and mouth disease include increased surveillance and diseases identification, movement controls, sensitization of farmers and other stakeholders, and mass vaccination campaigns in high-risk cattle populations. And the minister says government requires about 86 million kwacha to buy 2.4 million doses of vaccines to curb the outbreak of foot and mouth disease that has affected most parts of the country. UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema has asked Speaker of the National Assembly Patrick Matibini to rescind his position and allow the Constitutional Court to determine the constitutionality of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 before the House discusses the issue any further. In his letter to the Speaker dated 21st August 2019, Mr. Hichilema argues that the doctrine of exclusive cognizance, which the Speaker cited in a letter to Messrs. Simeza Sangwa and Associates, is not constitutional but merely affords Parliament privileges and immunity relating to its internal rules and operations. Mr. Hichilema says that the arguments advanced by the Speaker in refusing to suspend the legislative process of the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 in the National Assembly pending determination of the matter by the Constitutional Court are based on complete misunderstanding and are in disregard of the constitutional provisions and principles. He states that the Speaker's interpretation and purported application of the sub judice rule principles is flawed. Mr. Hichilema further states the doctrine of exclusive cognizance applies to the United Kingdom, where, because the country does not have a written constitution, Parliament is supreme, whereas in Zambia the situation is completely different, with all institutions, including Parliament, being creatures of the Constitution and are amendable to it. He says the law-making function of Parliament is a constitutional and public function which cannot possibly fall within what he terms as the Speaker's narrow construction of the internal proceedings of the House. He adds that the Speaker's claim that the sub judice rule is not absolute and depends on his discretion based on the merits of each case is grossly flawed, as that would amount to usurping a constitutional power, namely judicial authority, which is lawfully allocated to the judiciary, and in this case the Constitutional Court. Mr. Hichilema has also questioned the Speaker why he has not tabled the impeachment motion to date if the ongoing court processes do not bind Parliament over the same matter. The Lusaka Basic Needs Basket for the month of July increased by 693 kwacha 56 ingwe from 5,286 kwacha 01 ingwe in June to 5,979 kwacha 57 ingwe in July 2019. JCTR Socio-Economic Program Officer Innocent Ndashe says the cost of living increased by 586 kwacha 50 ingwe from 1,430 kwacha 35 ingwe in June to 2,016 kwacha 85 ingwe in July. Speaking when he made a presentation on the revised basic needs basket in Lusaka, Mr. Ndashe says the cost of essential non-food rose to 3,962 kwacha 72 ngwe in July, compared to 3,855 kwacha 66 ngwe in June, recording an increase of 107 kwacha 06 ngwe. And Mr. Ndashe says the revised basic needs basket has removed some food items and replaced them with nutritious diets. He says by providing information on the availability of nutritious food, planners of nutrition interventions will make efforts that are more targeted at better results.
If people eat nutritious food, nutritious diet, then you have a productive citizenry. You reduce, for example, children dying at under 5 years of age, so meaning you have more people growing, very productive citizens. We need productive people, for example, in the agriculture sector. It could be in the mining sector and the other sectors. So they need to, household need to then realize a little bit more income. In terms of the essential non-food items, not so much increase. I mean, as that in the month of June, household needed to spend 3,855 kwacha, 66 kwacha, 66 ingwe on essential non-food items, housing, bath soap, electricity, water, and the like. But with the addition of the other 3 items and of course other factors on the market, as at July, then they needed to spend 3,962 kwacha 72 ngwe. So, and that's what makes the 5,979 kwacha 57 ingwe, reflecting an increase then on the basket if you compare the June figure and the August figure.
Speaking when he launched the revised JCTR Basic Needs Basket Program, JCTR Deputy Director Father Alex Muyebe expressed optimism that the new information of the revised BNB will be of great benefit to government and other duty bearers and citizens in the country.
With the information that we are able to provide now, households will be able to know where and how much the nutrition food is available out there. And this is very important, it's key, because it helps the households to address the issue of food security and also to combat issues of malnutrition. So this is a milestone on our part as JCTR, that our food basket is now enhanced. We are now, as far as food components are concerned, we are now focusing on nutrition or nutritious food. The nutrition component is very important. But also, with a wide consultation and expert input.
Civil rights activist Brebna Changala says failure to constitute a tribunal to investigate Lands Minister Jean Kapata over the degazetted Lusaka East Forest number 27 will create a crisis. Mr. Changala says the allocation of plots in Forest number 27 has brought all three arms of government into question. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Changala has since challenged Chief Justice Irene Mambilima to exonerate herself by constituting a tribunal to clear allegations surrounding the allocation of plots in Forest number 27. Mr. Changala says Justice Mambilima has no choice but to constitute a tribunal, especially that she has been named as one of the alleged beneficiaries of the plots in the forest in question.
If she refuses to establish the tribunal, it will only be because she's conflicted. And because she's conflicted, she's refusing to perform her duty as so prescribed in the Constitution and in her job description. She has no choice, especially more so that she's one of the beneficiaries of a controversial piece of land, Forest 27. So, morally and judicially, she's obliged to set up this tribunal, or else one day things will not be in her favor. At the moment, I know they are protected, but whoever gave them that line, they have their own answers, but we need to know.
Meanwhile, National Democratic Congress NDC National Lands Chairperson Vincent Mwanza has welcomed the decision by concerned environmentalist William Harrington to write to Chief Justice Irene Mambilima requesting her to set up a tribunal to probe Lands Minister Jean Kapata in connection with the allocation of land in Forest Reserve number 27 in Lusaka. And Mr. Mwanza has appealed to Justice Mambilima to recuse herself in this matter, considering that she is allegedly a beneficiary of the land not only in Lusaka Forest number 27, but also in Shuyunji Forest number 42. He says the Chief Justice should instead delegate her deputy to handle this matter.
We won't be surprised to hear cases of rampant corruption in the judiciary because the respect that the system gave her honor has been eroded. Currently, most citizens have challenges in acquiring land in Lusaka. We are left with many questions as how and why Madam Mambilima has miraculously been allocated 2 plots in 2 controversial areas at alarming speeds. As NDC, we want to remind the Chief Justice that she heads a very sensitive and important office in the land.
Agriculture Minister Michael Katambo has been called upon to quickly act on the directive by Acting President Nongewina to intervene in the rising mealie meal prices in the country, which is becoming unaffordable to most ordinary Zambians. All People's Congress President Nelson Musoni says the rising cost of mealie meal prices demands for answers from government and particularly from Mr. Katambo for insisting on the lifting of the ban of export of maize. Mr. Musoni says individuals in government who have been in the forefront advocating for the lifting of the maize export ban should take full responsibility. He states that the high cost of mealie meal has forced many Zambian families to go without food.
In essence, what you are doing is that you are inciting our people, because our people will not remain quiet when thousands upon thousands of our people go without food. The role of any serious government, any responsible government, is to act in moments like this. So we think that the behavior of government, the behavior of this government, is tantamount to inciting citizens. And we also think that those responsible for lifting the ban on the export of maize must now take responsibility and step down. I think morals, ethics, ethos are important in public service. If you know that you've made a mistake, you know that you have erred, accept to take responsibility and step down, step aside to allow other people to run government.
Former Finance Minister SUMBWE Musokotwane doubts the rebasing of the Zambian economy will presently achieve anything in turning things around. Dr. Musokotwane says rebasing will only improve statistics on the size of the country's economy. He tells QTV News that there is in fact a possibility of coming up with a figure that leaves out new industries that are established after rebasing has taken place. Dr. Musokotwane, however, states that rebasing of the economy has advantages when it comes to expanding the tax base. He says if government establishes the actual size of the economy, it will be able to know which sectors are not being fully taxed. A UK-based expert and consultant in cross-border education, Akinimo Odon, has observed that most African countries, Zambia inclusive, are graduating students who are unemployable. Dr. Odon, who is in the country on a 10-day visit, says many African students have no capacity to access high-earning jobs locally and abroad because most of their courses are out of sync with global trends. Speaking to journalists upon his arrival at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, Dr. Odon noted the need for countries like Zambia to foster good relationships for exchange programs with top-ranking universities internationally and other celebrated institutions as a means for the country to have a cadre of employable graduates. Dr. Odon adds that government has a major role to play in policy pronunciations if the education sector is to produce employable graduates. He has also noted the need for public higher learning institutions to reduce their dependency on government funding for their operations. While in the country, Dr. Odon will visit several higher learning institutions, both public and private, and also engage with government officials, technocrats in the education sector, and students, among others, on the provable disconnect that exists between being a graduate and being unemployable.
Agriculture is a big deal in Zambia because over 80% of the population is in agriculture. But I discovered something. When you look around, even though there's agriculture being done in universities, less than 10% of agricultural graduates in Zambia do anything agricultural. So it means, therefore, that intellectual capacity and know-how to move agriculture from small scale to medium scale to large scale is lacking. If the ones who went to university for 4 years to do agriculture are not actually being deposited or absorbed in the agricultural industry. I'm Nigerian, and in some sense, the issue is the same everywhere. You know, the young people of Zambia are incredible, adventurous. See, but do they have the required skills and capacities and competencies, capabilities to get absorbed into the market based on mismatch that currently exists? And it's very important for us to realize that you might complain to the government, oh, nothing works, but the point is, what is available for young people to do within their own remit and control to make their lives better? There are many things available. In my job, I travel an awful lot. I'm an African strategist. I cover over 36 countries in Africa. And as I travel, the issues I see in Accra, Ghana, is the same issue I see in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. It's the same issue in Lusaka. So, but the point is, until we get to the point where we understand that education has moved from just being a charitable service to being an enterprise, a knowledge enterprise, then we're in trouble. Because as a matter of fact, we've got problems, that's true. But only us can provide solutions to our problems.
Some ordinary Zambians have expressed mixed feelings on the topical Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019. A random survey conducted by Q News has also established that majority of women are less interested in the discourse around the Constitution Amendment Bill. Our staffer Lazarus Chichula has more details in this report.
A random survey has established that not all Zambians hold the same view on the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019. It has also been established that majority of women in the country are less interested in the discourse around the bill. In an interview, however, this Kabwe resident, Mushibye Muhongo, has expressed worry that the bill to amend the Republican Constitution has been rushed. He is of the view that government should have gone on the ground to consult the people before going ahead with the process to amend the Constitution.
So it's better that thing maybe is taken to the lowest level for people to understand the reason why they want to change the Constitution instead of rushing. If you rush, you end up making something in a rush. Get the point.
Langabanda, a Lusaka resident, equally feels that continued amendments to the Constitution is a wastage of public resources. He also thinks that politicians should not make changes to the Republican Constitution that only suit their own interests. But another Lusaka resident, Elijah Kasituka, holds the view that constitutional refinement must go ahead as it is good for the country.
It is worth it. They have to amend it because there are some things which are repeating on themselves. Like we have a lot of lacunas in the Constitution.
His view is supported by another Lusaka resident, Watson Ntonga, who has also encouraged people in the country to make submissions towards the Constitutional Amendment Bill.
Please take advantage of this. Go and submit your feelings, your submissions, so that if you feel we should have the Constitution should be amended.
Whether or not people support the passing of the Constitutional Amendment Bill into law, if Parliament succeeds, it will be binding to all Zambians. Lazarus Sichula, QTV News.
A 41-year-old Zambian national has died in Cape Town, South Africa, after sustaining neck injuries resulting from a knife stab. The deceased, identified as Peter Nyirenda, died at Retreat Clinic in Cape Town after suffering from neck-related complications, which he sustained after he was allegedly stabbed by his spouse following a domestic dispute. The late Mr. Nyirenda was first admitted to Gucha Hospital, where he was treated for neck complications before being discharged. His remains have since been deposited at a private mortuary in Westlake awaiting burial. Meanwhile, another 25-year-old Zambian national was found dead in the central business district of Johannesburg. Jishimba Pongolani was found dead along the Klein Plain streets of Johannesburg. It is alleged that the deceased was asked to leave his friend's house after his condition deteriorated, as he was of no fixed abode. His remains have since been deposited at a government mortuary in Hillbrow awaiting burial. This is according to a statement issued by First Secretary, Press and Public Relations at Zambia's High Commission to South Africa, Naomi Nyawali. Chieftainess Nyakulenga of the Lunda people in Zambezi district of Northwestern Province has urged investors to consider investing in mining, agriculture, energy, forest and aquaculture in her chiefdom. She says she is ready to give land to any investor who will show interest in investing in the area. Chieftainess Nyakulenga has told Q News that she is also looking forward to a time when the area will be connected to the solar energy, considering that it will take time for ZESCO to connect the area owing to the distance. Chieftainess Nyakulenga has further called on all stakeholders in the province to embrace the ongoing Northwest Expo, saying that the province will only develop if serious investors are attracted to the area.
What you have brought here is not all. There's more to it than what is here. We want them to come and invest in mining, in agriculture, in forestry, timber, honey, and water bodies for rice and fishing and solar energy. That's what we want, because we are away from the district administration where ZESCO is. It may take time for ZESCO to move to that place. So we want the chiefdom to be connected to solar energy. So these are the things to take place. So investors are welcome to our chiefdom to come and see what we have got and to invest in the chiefdom.
Public Policy Institute of Zambia President Fabian Chewe has called on government to consider redefining the mining policy so that investing in the sector can have more export incentives. Mr. Chewe says a well-designed policy in the mining sector will clearly outline the current status of the industry and lay out a roadmap for all stakeholders in the industry to follow. He has proposed that government should not tax those exporting their goods in the emerald sector. Mr. Chewe tells Q News that government should instead tax those who are importing their goods. He states that Zambia's precious stones are considered to be of high quality and that the future for the gemstone industry in Zambia is bright.
For instance, in the areas of gemstones, most of the people who export, these gemstones to these countries, they're also levying a tax when those things reaches those countries like China and Thailand. All these, you pay tax for actually selling there. So in addition to 15% tax which government has introduced, there's another tax maybe in the range of 5 to 10% that you also pay that side for actually accessing their market. So already you're talking about 21% in excess. And then you also bring the addition of also the mineral royalty tax, which is starting at 6%. Obviously, you're getting to almost about 35% in terms of taxes you pay. How much profit are you going to make from such an arrangement? So expect that government begin to look at these issues and redefine the policy towards mining so that we can have more incentives going to the people exporting rather than actually reducing those incentives.
And in sport, the Zambia Air Force ZAF Deputy Air Commander Major General Benedict Kalinda has encouraged ZAF officers to keep afloat the spirit of fitness, unity and togetherness. Speaking when he officially closed the 2019 Inter-Unit Games at ZAF Lusaka Base, General Kalinda says this will also help in maintaining physical and mental balance in order to have a sound and fit Air Force ready for national duty at any given time. He has implored the officers to ensure that the enthusiasm and sportsmanship witnessed during the Games does not end with the Games. The ZAF Lusaka team emerged winners of the Games, with ZAF headquarters coming second and ZAF Twin Palm emerging third.
And has been won by with a 30,000 quad.
This was indeed an excellent platform for building a spirited corps. And this is how it should be. And this is how it's going to be. This is especially true because as a defense force, we need to be fit to fight, as well as to be well defined and a cohesive team. As command, we are aware that hosting such an event comes with its own challenges, such as enduring field conditions. I believe that as military personnel, field conditions will not distract us, but rather sharpen us to focus on our intended objectives.
To end the news recap on stories making headlines, Transparency International Zambia TIZ has demanded the reversal of the degazation of the Lusaka East Forest Reserve number 27. Government has lifted the ban on the movement of livestock in Eastern Province following a successful vaccination exercise against foot and mouth disease. And UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema says Speaker of the National Assembly Patrick Matibini's interpretation and purported application of the sub judice principles is flawed. On that note, we end the news. Pleasant viewing.